It was in the Christmas season of 1956 that the Nativity Scene was first erected, and I think my mother had thought about it for some time, but she hadn't really put it into action. She had been, I don't know really how long she'd been thinking about it, but she saw a stuffed, inflated animal, and that made her just think about maybe it could be a lamb if she wanted to go ahead and start this project. So she did, and that was in the fall of 1956, and my dad made a stable out of about 100 bales of hay, and she made the characters out of stuffed, shaped them and stuffed them and covered them with burlap for the three wise men, the three shepherds, and for Mary and Joseph and the baby. And that first year it was lit with flares. It was not electrically lit for 2 years. Each year more characters and more animals were added, and that meant starting in the early fall, possibly September, especially with the animals, because my dad welded the frames and stuffed them, and my mother covered them with the appropriate material. This had to be done very carefully to get the right measurements for each one, because a cow and a donkey and a camel are all very differently shaped, and measurements were very important to make them look lifelike. And so he started probably some years quite early, maybe certainly by September, and each year my mother would have to make new costumes and often touch up the face of the mannequins which were received. It was in 1958 that they decided to put out registers in the little, they built a little straw building for it, and they thought it would be interesting to know who was there and where they came from. So they put the books out, and were really quite surprised to know of how many people and where they came from. People from every province and many states, many countries, and in Europe and all over, just because they were in the area and knew someone who knew about it, and they were all very impressed. And often they would make little remarks in the register about what impressed them, and this was always interesting for them to read about. This is an oil painting that my mother did of the scene as it was in 1961. She had taken a snapshot of it and decided that she would do an oil painting, and that way it could be remembered as it was then. In 1975, my father passed away, and that year she did continue to have it that Christmas, but in 1976 she moved to Wallaceburg. The scene came then as well, and it was erected in the downtown area in different locations for 5 years. In 1981, Bethel Pentecostal Church took it over, and in 1991 they built a building to contain it, to protect it, and it is there that it remains at this time. My mother and father received many notes of appreciation and were blessed by so many comments that people made, and so many people in these notes and after that verbally have stated how every year they would be sure to go at some time and bring their children, their family. It became a tradition with so many people to do that, and these were the sorts of things that really blessed my parents and made it seem all worthwhile to do. And even now I will hear people, if the subject is brought up, say how they went there as a child, and they recall that as a special time.